Hey, Bart, pleased to meet you. Thanks for coming on to our community spotlight for Rejuve. Thanks for giving up a bit of your Saturday morning for us. Hey, anyway, tell me, a little bit about yourself, a bit about your background for other members. Hear what you're about.
Yeah. Hi, Stuart, and hi, everyone. My name is Bart. I come from Poland, and I'm a film director. So, in a sense of, let's say, being an expert in longevity, I'm not the person who dived very deeply and for a very long time into this area specifically. If we think about longevity as a long period of time and making it being longer and longer. But on the other hand, I think that the topic of making your life not only longer but also more full is something which I had been interested in for a long time. Of course, in this area of just making your body being more strong and your cells not getting aged so quickly, this kind of knowledge is accessible for everyone. Like we can only dive into the David Sinclair, researches about supplements and resveratrol and NAMN, and these things are of course very good, and I'm happy there are these people who tries to dive deeply inside. But from my perspective, it's only one part of what we could call longevity. Really, what it really is, because when I see people around, I see that there are people who can live who can be in their 20s or 30s, and they suffer from depressions. Probably many of you know that today's statistics shows there are so many people even thinking about suicidal thoughts, etc. But on the other hand, I know there are people who are like 80s in the 80s and 90s, and they have full of life inside. Therefore, in my opinion, this is the whole aspect of which we should talk about if we want to really talk about longevity.
Right. So, talking about longevity in its fullest sense, where did those? Is that from your work, or from personal life? How what is that wider thoughts about longevity? Where does that come from? What's inspired that?
Yeah, one of the things is probably the place I am in my life, because I see people around, and I see that many of them go to work and they have their lives, but I see that there's not a lot of, let's call it, fulfillment inside. And I've noticed that in my life, it's like from year to year, I'm more and more fulfilled. I'm more and more happy, and I know people like me as well. Lately, I met a lady who's working as a just normal work as a hairdresser, and she was so full of life. She was like 65, saying that for 40 years she have been helping people with their haircuts, and she was really like 25 years old inside. And I have this feeling that we need to focus on this part of ourselves if we really want to find out what it means to live not only longer but like deeper. And the other thing is that I'm not sure if I can say that from this what I'm gonna mention now. I also have these thoughts, but because I'm a filmmaker, I had to meet many people, and from time to time I do interviews with them, etc. So probably this is also one of these parts of my life when I can see and compare what's happening to people's lives, people's, like, let's call it vitality, the inside vitality. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a interesting point, because I guess in longevity we often focus on the physical health. Obviously that's important, whether it's the quality of sleep or the use of supplements. You're making some interesting points about emotional health and life in that broader sense, right, Bart? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you know, some of these thoughts we can find out looking at the analysis of the blue zones, so-called blue zones. Yeah, so
yeah,
and this knowledge is also quite easy to reach, easy to access. And when we look not only on what they say, but I think that if every one of us would also make an insight to themselves and their experience, they would find similar things that are important to get this life more fulfilled. I would say, like one of them, I think is joy. So what's the point living 120 plus? Let's hope, because I know now this is the limit. Let's say. But what's the point living that long if there's no life inside? I mean, is it really longer life? It's kind of a zombie kind of life, I would say. So we cannot neglect these things like joy, which I think comes from this is like a deeper and we could also say philosophical conversation. And of course, I'm very happy that we can talk. And if you're curious, just let's talk about this stuff. But there are a couple of things like joy, like purpose, like gratefulness, thankfulness. I mean, some more kind of things which, if you want, of course, let's discuss.
Sure, Bart. I like what you're saying. I mean, this video is going out to the Rejuve community. As you know, we like to once or twice a week, think and inspire practically a challenge around whether it's a wellness or a physical activity. I mean, on a day-to-day level, folks listening to you now, on a day-to-day level, what kind of little things do you do, or would you suggest that kind of help you? Because it's nice to talk about, but it's obviously it's doing it that counts, right?
Let's focus first on joy.
Yeah.
I think that the joy comes from, or one of the very important parts of where it comes from is this feeling of purpose I do have. And in the society where there's so much focus on what I want, me, what I want, what can make me happy, which to some extent is of course important, because if I don't take care of my needs, I will not be able to help others. But if we focus only on this, even in the aspect of what can make me live longer, even this can become, egoistic, too egoistic, because if to some extent being egoistic is of course very good, but this is not yet where we can take the purpose from. And I think that when we get to this world, the world where we're already, let's say, taking care, we've already taken care of ourselves, then we, in my opinion, have to think about others. It's like serve. In other words, it's of course more philosophical part of our talk, but if we want to talk about the human a person in these full aspects, I think this is very important. When I do not have this inside, let's say, direction, which is serving others, helping others become more, joyful, happy, etc., or whatever, or just being alive, or be alive inside, whatever. If I have this direction of serving others, then automatically something switches inside of me. And I've noticed in many people that when this switch is switched on, somehow they start to have more joy in their life. The second thing is if we would talk about elderly people, in my opinion, this idea of retirement is is a misunderstanding. Right. I don't think there should be something like this. Of course, I cannot do the same work when I'm 75 as if I'm 25. But this idea of let's work till I'm 65 or 70 and then I'm gonna rest is really a good advice for someone who want to die soon. We see it everywhere that when people stop working, they start dying. And I think it's also connected with this inside structure which we have, which is focused on serving others. You know, in some stories, like ancient stories, there were people who were called wizards. And intuitionally, when we watch films today, when we see wizards, we feel like, wow, this is something I really want to stay close to. I want to listen to these people. And why? I think the reason for that is that we really stopped to look at elderly people as someone who we need, from who we can learn, who could be this kind of wizard figures. And if we do not look at elderly people that way, they will not look at themselves that way as well. So being old will for them feel like, oh, I'm useless. You know, there's no need for me to be here. And then, you know, the inside vitality just goes down. So this is another thing. Another thing is being grateful, being thankful for what I experienced, because this is against the mentality of a victim. You know, whatever happens to me, no matter if I'm in my 30s and I'm really strong and have a lot of money, or I'm in a very low position in any sense, I experience things which I know they have hurt me, or they have been just hard for me. You know, someone dies, or someone breaks relationship in which I was, etc., etc. And if we take the position of a victim, it's again the starting point to going towards dying inside. And it's also, then we can see it also outside in our bodies. When you look at someone who lives in this kind of state for many years, you see it on their face. You know, you see a lot of sadness. You see their skin is not that shining, etc., etc. While on the other hand, when you look at people who have inside of them this feeling of thankfulness for what they have, you see that there's some kind of light in them, and this gives life. You know, it really gives life. And also on the biological and neurobiological level, the cortisol, you know, the level of cortisol goes down when we have a lot of thankfulness inside. There have been even researches about it. While the religions has been teaching us this for centuries. Therefore, I think, Stuart, that if we really want within Rejuve think about longevity, we need to focus on both sides of a person. We cannot focus only on the biological side. Of course, there have to be time for focusing on one, because we cannot do everything in the same time. But there could be a danger in making people's lives getting longer very easily. You know, in one moment, we can even go to the place where we have some kind of, let's call it a pill, which will help you prolong your life 1-2 years. But if this is gonna be just the easy solution, I think the easy solutions always takes us towards some kind of exaggeration, which is neglect of the other side. And this kind of zombie-looking people could be, of course, this is also exaggeration when I call them zombie-looking people, but you know what I mean. It's like it was in States like 30 years ago when antidepressants first started to show up strongly. You know, antidepressants are very important, especially for people who have depression. But if you use them to make your mood getting better, no matter what happens later on, this makes you just like all your feelings being cut off. And many people used to have this kind of life, just having the pill, and there was no life inside.
Yeah, I guess it's sometimes I think I recall someone just very simply talking about the difference between just existing and living, right? So that's how I, in very simple terms. But yeah, I appreciate in terms of the community. What do you, as you're talking about, it's important for the community to consider the points you're raising, Bart. How do you see the Rejuve community developing then? How would you like it to develop over the 2024? I mean, obviously we've got the app launch coming, which is great. But in a broader sense, And how would you like to contribute to the community?
App is very good. It will help us to see the patterns which are, let's call it, analyzed by artificial intelligence from the data which the app will take from people, etc. But however non-scientifically it sounds, I think that hard data is not enough to have a really deep insight into what Rejuve want to achieve. Hard data is important, but we need to also put focus, I think, on the, let's call it, soft data. When if hard data is something objective, then soft data is something subjective, which is what do I have an impression that, and now let me explain. If people, and we should probably start from a community of Rejuve, would write down and, let's say, send those information to Rejuve team, write down their observations, but the observations which are not taken from hard data, because they have not been, no writing down any data, but from their subjective feelings about what works in their life and what works in the lives of people they know. Because thanks to subjective feelings about what works, what not, then we help our, let's call it, inner artificial intelligence, which is our intuition, to find patterns which our ratio cannot really see, even if analyzed for 100 years. There are some things which we can feel works, but we are not sure why. We're not sure why. Science showed it many times that things which used to work and we didn't know why, after like 150 years, we found out why. Then it was only on intuitional choice which people took because they felt that it's like with a kid, little children, sometimes they taste the wall, the paint on the wall. We could think, what sense does it have? And then later on we found out that there is some ingredients of the I don't know what's the English for this, these ingredients which are in our bones.
Oh, calcium.
Yeah, calcium. Then we found out that this kid just does it intuitionally. And in my opinion, we need to have at least a part of this main base, which will be, and maybe also analyzed by artificial intelligence later on, but where the data comes from the intuitional and subjective feelings and thoughts about what's happening and what helps me. And I think that if we go this way, then Rejuve really can be faster than other companies which are also focused on helping our bodies, etc. And some of them probably also, or if not now, they will for sure use artificial intelligence to analyze the data. And if Rejuve starts looking at the person more holistically than only biologically, we can really be in front run.
Right.
I think so.
No, thank you. It's a fascinating perspective. Makes sense. Thank you, Bart. I appreciate your time. We've only got a short slot here to talk in our community spotlight, but I look forward to hearing more of your views on the Rejuve community in the months and weeks ahead. So thanks very much again for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you as well. Thank you for your patience for my English.
No, your English is great. Thank you. And if anyone out there listening would like to take part in the community spotlight, you can grab me on the Rejuve Telegram or Discord, and we can set things up and have these discussions, which I think are very fruitful. So thank you to the community as well. And again, thanks to Bart.
Thanks. Greetings for all the community. Take care.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.